gang-stalking.
How do they hurt, like, women and grandmothers and kill people's pets?
Alex has told police the people were keeping him awake, using microwave vibrations and calling out his name.
They want highly intelligent people to be targets of this program. And some people are becoming the target of this matrix system of technological and signal intelligence and human intelligence control of the individual and of society.
And they're trying to improve on this weapon technology, and they need sample points.
They are selected for many different reasons. Often it is because they are isolated. They also tend to be people that are highly intelligent. They don't have a lot of money, friends, or family. 70-75% of targeted individuals are in fact women. But they will be organized stock. They will have career sabotage programs run against them. They'll be isolated from family and friends, character assassinations campaigns. They will be isolated slowly over time. False diagnoses of schizophrenia, manic depression, empowered individuals. Each individual fits the general profile that I'm describing. They normally have some sort of a free mind. They're outsiders, they're what the government would call dissidents or revolutionaries or people that may be a problem. 70-75% of targeted individuals are in fact women. 70-75% of targeted individuals are in fact women. 70-75% of targeted individuals are in fact women. They're people that aren't part of the crowd, so to speak, in the way that they think. They will be organized stock. They will have career sabotage programs run against them to ruin their job. Some TIs have said that this kind of profile that all TIs fits is empowered individuals, and I would definitely agree with that. Empowered individuals.
Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you. But rejoice, inasmuch as ye are partakers of Christ's sufferings, that when his glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad also with exceeding joy. If ye be reproached for the name of Christ, happy are ye, for the Spirit of glory and of God resteth upon you.
Shalom. Thank you for joining me for this another episode of this fiery trial. I'm Sapore Bream, and I am the editor-in-chief and the artistic editor and the every other editor, wearing all hats for this artistic ministry. And I say artistic ministry because that's really what it is. This is not a proselytizing ministry. It's not, in that, not any type of ministry in that traditional sense. I'm not, proclaiming myself to be an evangelist, a minister, or a deacon, or any of that in that sense that we know that when we look at that term or that title. This is just a ministry that is sharing the good news of the Messiah, using artistic platforms, using art in a lot of different mediums, painting, drawings, graphic novels, comics, editorial cartoons, praises. And now I'm exploring with podcasting, and also doing designs for t-shirts, coffee mugs, mouse pads, those types of things. Just anything where it all falls under the category of creative gospel expressions. And it's just a way to share the good news, that redemption, salvation has been made available to all of us through the sacrifice and the crucifixion, the resurrection of our Master and King, Yahushua HaMashiach, Yahushua the Messiah, who the world and Christians mistakenly call Jesus Christ. But that is really the good news. And also, being aside from that, I happen to be a victim of a world phenomenon, social malady that is being called gang-stalking or targeting. It's also referred to as adult bullying, touchless torture, organized harassment, community harassment, social harassment. I just recently heard another way someone referred to it as demonic harassment. But it's it's a phenomenon that is slowly growing in awareness. I'm not sure I want to say that it's growing in numbers. I think that in all honesty, what's happening is that many of us who have been victims of this for a long time are finally becoming aware of what it is called, is finally becoming aware that that these are actually programs that are in place in many communities, that some of those communities they're being sanctioned and supported and even funded by the government, by the military. So I think in that sense, I think the awareness is growing, and so more and more people are talking about it. But I think that, so I don't want to say that the numbers are growing. I think that that's just the awareness is growing. Because like I said, I just recently found out the name of this. Okay, well now we're in the new calendar year, 2019, but I became aware of the actual name of for this, what I've been dealing with for many, many years. And in what, like I want to say like late April or May of 2018. But I've been dealing with this long before that. But now that I'm aware of it, I've been just doing a lot of videos. I've decided to include this as a part of this ministry to provide a source of I don't know, just inspiration, maybe just and information. I know that there are a lot out there. There are so many people who are talking about this, who are doing this. There's so many different YouTube channels, so many different websites where it's being talked about and support is being offered. There's community organizations that are in full swing. Rather, they are dealing with this in the courts. They're trying their hardest to bring perpetrators to justice, to bring it into the awareness through the media. There's just a lot going on. So I know that, it's not like this ministry is going to stand out in that capacity, but it's there, and hopefully, many of you who are listening to these episodes, can get some inspiration or information from them, and maybe even direct a few other people to the podcast as well. And basically, this podcast I'm just sharing my experiences as a unwilling, as a forced participant in this program, and how I am enduring, and maybe some of what I have been through and I'm going through can help you. And you're also definitely welcome in the comment section here at the on Podbean, or over on the Artistic Ministry website. The episodes are also available there, and even on YouTube. So leave a comment, share some of your experiences as well. Though I know that that's I know many of us, we take a risk in doing that because we are so heavily monitored and so heavily harassed on the internet, having our computers hacked and infiltrated, and having our different what our channels on YouTube and such being messed with and such. It's really hard. Someone who I subscribe to, and I think she's on my subscription list also, but she had some of her targeteers actually, I think the word is called cloning. They cloned her YouTube channel and started going to different under using her username, using her channel and everything. They started going to making comments on different channels, just saying, I guess, all manner of just vile, nasty, disgusting things that she would never say or would never do. And of course, people got offended, and they started leaving comments on her channel and accusing her of this and that and the other thing, and it was really bad. But she weathered through. People came to her support and supported her on it and helped her out, and that's good that there is a community where we have that, and it saddens me that that's some of the things that people are doing, that these targeteers are doing to us. But so I know that to leave a comment on some of these different websites and such, it's that you take a risk in doing that. So I get it, so I realized that at first I was kind of upset when I was like started doing these leaving the episodes on YouTube and such, and how I wouldn't get any, no one would leave any comments, no one would give it a thumbs up or anything, and I was like kind of wondering about that. And I think and it dawned on me that might be one of the reasons, because I had another individual who had left a comment, and he would every once in a while leave comments, and he left a comment, and then I went, I think like a day later, to go, and I was going to maybe make a reply to the comment, and the comment was gone. And I went to another section, just the analytics section, where you can look at just some of the different comments and such. And as I opened the page, I mean, it opened just long enough for me to see his the avatar, so I knew he was on there. And then it all of a sudden it just kind of clicked, flickered, and then when it came back on, his comment was gone. And so I know that happens too. So and I offer apologies. I'm sorry. I don't know how many of you have honestly attempted to leave. This was on YouTube that this happened, so I don't know how many of you have actually left comments and then the comments have been deleted or erased or covered or something. I don't know. And the view counts are messed with and such, so who knows what's really going on. But I apologize for that if that's happening to you. It's not me doing it, trust me on that one. But so yeah, I say leave a comment, if you dare. But I don't know. But then I think some of it is just that I just don't really know how to promote my podcast. I don't know how to promote the website, the ministry and such. That's all that's new to me. And so I think some of that's part of what it is too. But this is but I don't mind that part, because it's like a learning thing, and I'm it's a challenge, and I like that I'm learning and I'm growing. So maybe who knows how long this will, I'll just let it play out and we'll see how long. Maybe I'll just do a few more episodes and that'll be the end of the podcast, or maybe the podcast will go on for a long time. I don't know. But at any rate, let's see, something that I wanted to do, I've been wanting to do for a while, but on these episodes, and I do it usually before I start, but I think this time I'm going to do it also just here at the beginning, and that is just start with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, I thank Thee for this day, for all that Thou hast given me. I thank Thee for preserving me through this walk, that I might have experiences and some insight to share. And I thank Thee for the growth that I am getting just by doing these episodes. And I ask Thee, Heavenly Father, that You would bless all who hear this, that it will definitely be an inspiration and a help and a source to them. I ask Thee, Heavenly Father, to bless all individuals who are in this program, who are being tormented and tortured, especially those who are dealing with this, who are using righteousness, who are using Thy word, who are using Thy commandments. Heavenly Father, please bless us all. That I ask Thee to please pour Thy Spirit out on all of us. Bless us with Thy protection, with good health, with prosperity, with the fruits of Thy Holy Spirit, to guide and inspire us, and to keep us out of the path of the enemy. Heavenly Father, I ask Thee that during the recording of this podcast and during its playback, that Thou would bind all the tricks, all the servants of the enemies who would come against this podcast, who would come against this ministry, that all their efforts would be in vain. Please, Heavenly Father, I ask Thee to please put a hedge of protection and a hedge of favor around this ministry, around this podcast, around the channel, and around all those who subscribe, all those who come here, that Thy protection would be with them, always and in all ways. And I offer this prayer in the name of Thy Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. Shalom. Okay, I usually do that before I start, but I just decided I would do it then and also now, that blessing would be for all who come to this channel. And I think also just because of what it is that I wanted to really look at for this episode, I touched on it briefly, or a lot actually, in those episodes that I did during the leading up to the Christmas holidays. And that was looking at, again, at the one of the tactics we know that is used in these gang-stalking programs is the satanic attacks. And I looked at it in those episodes in terms of the different the pagan origins of those holidays, and some of the actual objects and the different, rituals, the Christmas trees and the hollies and what that's about, and the mistletoe, and how there's these go back to all of those holidays that they have their roots, their beginnings in paganism, in idolatry, which we know is basically at the core of all that is Satanism. Okay, is the worship of the devil, is the worship of fallen malachim, fallen angels, as the Christians call them. And that when we participate in that, we're basically stepping onto the playground, into the sandbox of pagan worshippers, of idolaters, of witches, warlocks, wizards, call them whatever you want, shamans, druids, whatever name they use. But you're in their sandbox, and their rules apply. And basically, they can, one of the things that they do, according to their rules, is they like to curse people, they like to torment people, walk through people's dreams, violate you sexually, do any and all manner of evilness and wickedness to you. That's what happens in their playground, in their sandbox. So when you're in there and you're playing with their toys, their Christmas trees, their hollies, their wreaths, their Easter eggs, their Valentines, when you're playing with all those toys, they have the legal right to do what they do. And we don't want to give them that right. We don't want to be victims of that. We want to not be a victim, to protect ourselves in as many ways as possible. And so doing those episodes was basically giving you that information, which I came across, which I used, just in terms of helping me, because it's something that, I don't like being tormented spiritually. I don't like being attacked. I don't like it at all. So trying to close all doors, however many possible, so that it doesn't happen. And I understand that can't get all of them, that these people have, sneaky ways of getting in, whenever they can. But I ask, the Most High to be with me, to protect me, to put a hedge of protection around me, and a hedge of His favor, that I will find favor in His eyes, and that He will grant His mercy and His grace unto me, so that if I do miss a door, okay, if there is a window somewhere that they can get in, that His grace and mercy will be enough to thwart their attacks. And and I encourage you to do the same thing, because the other part that I wanted to look at, going deeper in that with this episode, is again, because what we're looking at when we talk about witchcraft, when we talk about shamanism, when we talk about paganism, or druidism, or all of that, again, at its core is Satan, is Satanism. That's really what this is. And I believe that gang-stalking, that it is an offshoot of that, even though some will say no, it's really just coming from the military. Because I've got some clippings, I'm going to play a few of them, where they're looking, where Tyrone Dew, where he interviewed someone who was a developer of some of these direct energy beam weapons that are being used against us. His name is Duncan. I'm going to say Dr. Duncan, Dr. Robert Duncan. I think it's Robert. I think that's his first name. I could be mistaken on the first name. But he was contracted as an engineer to help design some components of the weaponry. And he, I guess in the process of developing them, he realized what it was, how it could be implemented, applied. And he wrote a book, one of the books that he wrote in protest with the information, trying to bring awareness to it. It's called Soul Catcher. Now, Tyrone Dew, there's a few individuals who are, again, who they're not, as I mentioned several times, there's so many different ways to really look at this targeting, this gang stalking, and as a way to confront it, to grapple with it. And the way that I'm using, and those of you who are listening and following this podcast, we're using the weaponry that's given to us by the Most High. So we're using prayer, we're using fasting, praise writing, doing good deeds, keeping the commandments. We're using the scriptures, and so that's living in righteousness. That's how we're dealing with this. But there are others who are, again, they're in the communities. They're doing community activism and raising awareness from that way. There are those who are in the political arena, who are trying to draw attention to this in the media. And they're being very effective in that way, and I praise the Father for them. And so there are individuals who stand out, and who are making waves, in however way they're doing it, to draw attention to it. And Tyrone Dew, an individual who had been dealing with being a victim of the electronic harassment, the targeting for many, many years, and he shares in his interview that he would tell people, and his family was pretty much writing him off as being crazy. And yet he is someone who had made money in the millions. And he's an African American. And one of the things that was happening to him, the weaponry that they were using against him, they were forcing him to go out and spend his money lavishly, just foolishly, throw it around. And they would literally, he would hear the voices telling him, making him to go to these clubs to spend the money. And when he wouldn't, when he would use it in positive ways, or when he refused to do it, they would torment him even more with these direct energy beam weapons on his body. And whenever he would do it, then it would ease up. I mean, just vicious. I mean, this is a form of control. It's a form of punishment. It's insidious. Okay? And so he started just trying to investigate this and find out where it was coming from and why it was happening. And he actually finally met Duncan, and he interviewed him. And something that Duncan revealed was that the start of this, when they started developing them and wanting to test them, that they started on the descendants of the house of Jacob. We are known by many names, okay, and bywords. One of them is African American, Black American. In the past it was colored, okay, Afro American. But he said that they started in the African American community, okay. And that's where that has happened before. They did that with the Tuskegee experiments with the syphilis. They came into our community and did it first. They always do. And we know that who we are. That we are the descendants of the house of Jacob. We are in keeping with the punishments of the law that were to be put on us as a sign. That's what Moses said, that they would be on us as a sign, so that people would know who we are, that people could see the work of the Most High at work. They see the hand of the Most High at work in the earth by the way that he was punishing his people. And one of the signs is that we would be the tail of society and not the head. And if you're the tail of society, then you have no right, you have no power, you have no voice. And they could come into our communities and do this to us, and who would listen? Who would we go to? Many of us, we don't even know who to go to. We don't even know who to tell this to. And individuals like Tyrone Dew, when he coming forward and saying things, are looked upon as being crazy and being dismissed and not taken seriously. And this that was something that Duncan shared, and then more. And I'm just gonna stop right now and just put that on. Let me just play that for you right now.
Excuse me. In your experiences, will they begin doing this testing on subjects in the vast population? Who are the people that they first begin to target?
Well, originally, and there's a long history of CIA and Army and you name it. They would target the black community, those impoverished, those that had no voice in the community, those that can't speak up for themselves. In the past, the U.S. government purposely chose for a lot of their, non-consensual human experimentation programs, poor people, people that were easily discredited, and usually the black community.
Okay, there it is. Okay. You heard it straight from, quote-unquote, the horse's mouth. Someone who was, who knows about this, who's knowledgeable about this, because he was part of it. Some of the weapons that's being used against us, he made them, or helped make at least part of them. And I think that by bringing awareness to it, that he is correcting some of the wrongs that he did, and in all honesty, though, we can argue, did he do wrong? I mean, he was contracted to make a part, he didn't, make the whole weapon. He just made a part of it. Now, it was other people who got the parts and assembled them and put them together and used them for what they're being used for. Okay, so in that sense, I do not hold him responsible at all. And also because when he did become aware of it, hey, he has gone out just the same way that the whistleblower for that security firm in Seattle, when he found out what was going on, he worked there long enough and was promoted to a high enough rank that he found out what was going on. And when he found out about it, he stopped. He actually became a whistleblower, and is now being subjected to the same thing that we are. I mean, so there are individuals who, who are being involved in this ignorantly, unknowingly, and when they find out, they stop. That's how that works for them. And we have to praise the Father for them, because they are giving us the information that we need that can help us. So now we are looking at this. I wanted to look at this from to go deeper into this part on witches, which is why it has the title. And because we know that the tactics that they use, the different protocols or tactics that they use, there's many of them. I'm only becoming aware of the names of them. I'm still learning the names of some of them. Okay, I've been dealing with it, but just realizing, oh, this is what this was called. Oh, that's what that was. I didn't know that was the name of it. Like the mimicry, again, the electronic harassment, the color coding. Just the other day, the same thing happened. Coming home, turn the corner, and lo and behold, there's about 3 or 4 or 5 red cars, parked all at that end of the street, where my building's at. And, still people, doing the whistling, as they walk by. And, all that's still going on, and the synchronicity. Just always have that happen, walking out my door just as, certain individuals are walking out of their door. And I have no idea how they do that, if they have a camera in here somewhere, or if they're just somehow, I don't know. I have no idea how they do that. I have no idea. And it doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop. And it eases up. It comes in like the tide. Sometimes there's a high tide of it, and it eases out, and there's a low tide, and then it goes up. It was easing up. And then I started, doing, because I'd founded the ministry a while and was just working on that, and then I just started, doing the videos, and it, amped up again. And then it kind of lulled, and now it's amped up again. When I did all those videos back to back for the holidays, it amped up again. Now it goes, it is what it is. But something that I wanted to look at is just this, what happens to us is we start to wonder after a while, why me? Why am I the one that's going through this? And we know that there are many different reasons. Some of us are going through this simply because we just happen to, we married the wrong person, or divorced the wrong person, or got hired at a job and turned out to be the one to, to draw the short stick. Whoever got that position was going to be harassed. Or it could be, maybe we pissed off someone and they had the connections, the satanic connections, and they decided, to quote unquote get us. They're going to pay us back. I mean, who knows the reasons? But that's something that we ask ourselves. And we know also that there are some of us who are dealing with this because our family members, maybe someone, a distant relative, just happens to be involved in one of those alphabet agencies, DEA, CIA, ATF, I don't know, DOJ, and they did something wrong or upset the wrong person, or I don't know, whatever, and now their family is now forfeit. Many of us, we have family members or, ancestors who were maybe in, I don't know, one of these secret societies. I know for a lot of Hebrew-Israelites, the equivalent, the counterpart to the Gentile Masons, I think it's called the Lodge, the Prince Albert Lodge, Prince Albert Hall, or something like that. I don't know. But they join these societies, these secret organizations, these sororities. These sisters get in these different secret sororities on campus, and these brothers too. And then they make these pacts, these covenants, and some of them they agree that their family will be forfeit, that they will offer a child, a grandchild, a great-great-grandchild, or it might not even be that specific. They might not even specify it that much. It might just be someone in your bloodline, in your lineage, and they'll agree to it because they have an agenda. They have their own agenda. They're thinking of themselves and only themselves. And so they agree to it, and lo and behold, X number of decades later, or 2 centuries later, okay, it's us. and it's just right in our lap, and we're having to deal with it. But for many of us, this goes back a little further, and that's really what I wanted to look at for this podcast, this episode, which is why it has this title, because this is we know that is a form of control, that it can be used to punish, that it can be used to turn someone's will, it can be used to alter someone's destiny. And many of us, that's why this is happening to us, because someone is using it against us. But check this out, which is what I wanted to really just bring home, is the fact that I started looking at this and I realized that, and this is a recent development, and that is, how can I say this? I look at all of the different components or tactics that are used in these gang stalking programs, and the satanic attacks is just one of many, because some of us are experiencing one form of it, and some are experiencing another form. I've noticed that. And so when I look at what I'm dealing with, I've noticed that I look back in my life, and some of this has been going on long before, I got together with, that ex. Everybody has that ex-boyfriend, or that ex-girlfriend, and they were the ones that, that we can track it back to them. But, I realized this happened long before I left him, came back in the country, and got on a Greyhound bus and started driving across the country. Some of this, I look back and I realized that this was going on, when I was in high school, when I was a child. I look at things that were happening to my parents, to my family members, and I realized that this is what that was. And so that doesn't have anything to do with these targeting programs. So how does that happen? Do I not look at that because it doesn't have anything to do with gang stalking that we know of, But I think, in all honesty, one way to look at this is that this has been going on in many cultures, many parts of the world, for centuries and millennia. It's just that now, at this earth age, what's happening is it's all coming together. Because this is a spiritual war, which is what I was just saying. This is a manifestation of a war that's been going on since before the beginning of time. Time is a part of this physical realm. This has been going on since before then, but it's manifested here on this physical plane in this dispensation as gang stalking and targeting. But we know that different forms of harassment, community harassment, adult bullying, this has been going on for a while. But they did the negative side, that the kingdom of darkness, I think they've just gathered and amassed all their forces and all their weaponry, all their different agendas and tactics and protocols, and they've organized them and orchestrated them now. And one of the components that they're using is the witchcraft. That's how I look at that. So someone could be a victim of this, of being harassed by witches, being targeted by witches, and not even be a part of a gang stalking program. Might be even under the radar of some of these different harassment groups that are in these communities and that are getting funded, receiving funding by the military. And you heard what he said, that that after 9/11, it just amped up even more. And we know, with the Patriot Act, some of this stuff is being done in communities where they're getting funding because they're saying that they're organizing their communities, they're watching their communities, and they're just trying to monitor and to deal with and to quote unquote control, undesirables, those who are suspicious, those who are creating a problem in their community. So they're harassing them, they're monitoring them. That's how they're justifying this. So if that makes any sense, I hope it makes sense. But But then there's this other part of it that, again, why is it that they're able to do this to African Americans? Why is it they always come to us when it's time to do something wicked and foul and underhanded and test something out, that they come to us? And that brought me to looking at, again, the punishments of the law, and how we as the descendants of Jacob, how we were, we entered into a marriage. We entered into a covenant, and as with any of that, there's an agreement that's made, okay? And we know that basically Moses, the lawgiver, he explained it to us very clearly. He said, hey, these are, for the part of the Most High, this is what these are the dues. If you do this, you'll get these promises. If you do what he does, if you do what's on this side, what he says not to do, then these are the punishments that you're going to get. But if you do what he says, then these are the blessings that you're going to get. These are the promises that you're going to get. And he explained it to us, made it very clear that that if you do if you start doing what he tells you not to do, then these are these punishments that they're going to overtake you. Okay? And again, as I said, what was made very clear, he spells it in Deuteronomy 28, and he spells it out again in Leviticus 26, but it makes it very clear that they are going to be on us as a sign, so that people will know, one, who we are, and they'll be able to see the work of the hand of the Most High, and they'll be able to, and that they will, by our condition that we're in, that will hopefully evoke and cultivate in them fear and reverence for the Most High, that he is able to do this, that it would put that Gentile in a state of mind where he would muse and ponder, if this is the punishment that he's doing to his own people, what in the world is he going to do to me? Okay? Because this supernatural being that we married ourselves to just happens to be the creator of life, the creator of the spirit realm and the physical realm. Okay, that's who we married. Okay, and so we are now at the end of this time period, the end of this earth age as we know it. One of the portents, one of the signs that it is the end, is that he prophesied that he would start to wake us up where we had been scattered through slavery. And that's what's happening. We're waking up. And we're talking about it. We're realizing who we are. We're at the end of this earth age, so we have all of history. We can go back through history now. We can look at the books. We can look at the records. We can look at the journals. We can look at everything, and we know who we are. And so we can see. We can literally lay the punishments right next to our history. And we can see where these signs, these punishments, where they happened, and they are still happening. Okay, and that's what makes us different, because when you break down these punishments, there are many people who can say, well, I experienced that, or my people experienced that, or my ancestors, they dealt with this part, but are they dealing with it, all of them? Are they dealing with it now? Okay, as we speak, or did it lessen and ease up and go away when they moved to another country, when they immigrated to another part of the world, when they changed their name? Okay, you see, we are still under this. It's still happening. The only ones of us who are getting out from under that are those of us who are aware of who we are, who are repenting, and who are returning to the Most High. That's where the change and the easing of these punishments, or these chastisements, or these curses, that's where the easing is coming up. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I think it plays such a part as to why this is happening. Because I realize that one of the things that the Most High, that he said, just in looking at this, again, I always try to use the scriptures, but he makes something very clear. If we look in 28, Deuteronomy 28, he says very clearly in verse 15, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahuwah thy Elohim, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And when you use the word overtake, that starts to refer to your posterity, because it's going to get ahead of you. It's going to get ahead of you in time. It's going to get ahead of you, and it's going to affect your future. Because it's going to be, it's going to overtake you. It's going to get your future. And then he begins to list, these are the things that they will experience. And it's the complete opposite of the promises. Okay, so he makes that very clear. But again, also, even for the Gentiles, okay, those who are grafted into the house of Jacob, those who turn to the Most High, those who gain the grace and the blessing of salvation. If you look in Exodus, if you look in the commandments, if you look in chapter 20, he makes very clear, starting at verse 4, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth below, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, meaning don't worship them, nor serve them. That means don't do their bidding. Don't make altars. Don't put objects that they tell you to put on those altars and then conjure up and open up portals and call them forward and bring them into this physical realm. Don't serve them. Don't do that. That's what they want you to do. Don't use them to resolve your problems. Don't use them to gain your blessings. And he explains why. For I, Yahuwah thy Elohim, am a jealous Elohim. Because remember, this is a marriage. We entered into a relationship with him. Our ancestors entered into a marriage. He is the husband. He makes it very clear. He says in Isaiah, I am thy husband. Okay? And we are the bride. Okay? Yasharun is the bride. He says, I am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. So again, there it is, looking at their posterity. And so when you look at it from that perspective, that is how we know that he is alive, that he is real, that he is watching us. How else? If you can look through these punishments and you can literally see where they have taken place in your life, where you can literally go by experience and say, that right there, what happened right there, that happened to me. That happened to me. When you can literally put a name and a face and an experience right next to those punishments, almost all of them, okay, now some of them apply more to us here in the United States, but then there are some parts of them that apply to the Hebrew Israelites that are still in West Africa. Some of them apply, so some of them, but when we can look at them and we know that as a people that we are still going through them as a people to this very day, when you can literally walk outside your door and step outside and you can see that the bulk of the people who were suffering from certain social afflictions and maladies are African Americans, so-called African Americans, but are really Hebrew Israelites, and that malady, that affliction, is listed in this list of punishments, and then you go to another part and you see this, and it's still happening. Okay, if it walks like a duck, okay, and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck, okay. If that's who we are, okay, but we have to look at this. Because that I think it's key where he says that when you serve them, because when you look at what that means in serving them, it's something that I learned is that when you start to work with these altars and build these altars and open these portals and bring these, start summoning these entities and such, which is what we did. We were supposed to be separate from those other nations. Many of the other parts in the law, what was done was symbolic, was to keep in our mind's eye the idea of separation, to be separate from them. We were supposed to be separate from them. That's one of the examples in why, or the symbolism why we were not supposed to mingle certain herds together when, in terms of herding animals. We were not supposed to grow certain crops together. Don't put the rye with the corn, or don't put the wheat with the this and that. That's what that was about. That's why there was supposed to be a certain type of a hem, a certain type of a fringe around the bottom of the skirts, around the bottom of the garment, because it creates what? A border. That's what that was about, was to keep that in mind, to keep us from them, to keep us separate from them, because what they were doing. And I know that there was another podcast episode that I did where I explained, I just gave a description of what was happening in the land of Canaan when when we came up in there, why we were not supposed to be a part of that, just a description of what it was that they were doing, and yet we did it anyways. Okay, we sat up there and we did it anyways. We began to worship the deities that they were worshiping, and we began to call upon on their Elohim. We began to give them our names, or take on their names, and and we started worshiping their holidays, eating the foods that they were eating. We started to use their objects that they used. We started to name ourselves, name our children after their deities and such. We just got all up in the mix of it, and we were not supposed to do that. And basically, in short, we fell away from the law. We began to torment, to persecute, to torture and kill his prophets that were sent, to give warning, to wake us up. We went so far that we set up the Messiah. We rejected the Messiah, and we turned him over to the Romans and let them kill him. And we watched as they did it, as they nailed him to a pole, to a stake. And many of our ancestors stood around and watched and taunted and literally screamed and cried that they let Barabbas free, and that they crucify him, and literally said the words, let the blood be upon us, to be upon our children and our children's children. And the Most High said, okay, you bet it. You bet. I'll do just that. And that's what he did. Okay? And that's why, as the Messiah prophesied, that is why we are hated. We are hated by many nations, why we're dealing with this. And that explains why it would be possible for them to really start to practice using those direct energy beam weapons on us. Who would care? Who would listen to us? Who would take us seriously? Who would we turn to for help? Okay? But so now what happens as a result of that, of using those altars, using those rituals and such, as I learned, one of the things that happens is those entities, which we know, using the biblical terminology, we would call demons, devils, foul spirits, evil spirits, dark spirits. They stay on an individual, and they stay on that bloodline. They don't just, get someone to, drown to death and then leave. They stay. That spirit of death will stay on the bloodline. They don't just get someone to break up or leave their wife. They stay on that bloodline. That spirit of adultery stays on that bloodline. They don't just bring insanity on an individual, and then once the guy is a complete stark raving lunatic, just leave. They stay on that bloodline. That's how that works, and they become familiar spirits. Okay, and so some of us, that's what's happening. And as I saw it, as I looked at it in my life, just trying to explain why this was happening, why it is that this gang-stalking protocol, that particular component of it would be at work. This is how I saw it when it was explained to me in such a way that I could understand that. Because at first, when I first heard this idea that we as African Americans, that what we're dealing with is because of the sins of our parents, it felt I wanted to block it out and shut that out. That felt really, it felt almost as if it was a subtle way of saying, this is happening to you because you're black. I was like, wait a second, you can't say that. That is how racist, how can you say that? And yet when you stop and you really look back at history, you realize okay, that's not what that's saying, because the people that we were dealing with, they were black as well. Okay, so it couldn't have been just simply because we were black, because the Egyptians were black, those ancient Philistines, they were black, those ancient Arabs, they were black, all of the Shemitic line, all the Hamitic line. And if you really get down to it, you start really, really doing your research, you realize that Japheth also. Okay, that this idea of there being white, that there's something there, but they were not always white. This idea that that the descendants of Shem are somehow mixed, and that they were always, indigenously, originally, quote unquote, tan, that's not true. Okay, because if that's the case, then how do you explain some of these people who we know are from the line of Ham? They're kind of, quote unquote, tan also. How did that happen? Huh? I mean, so that whole idea of Shem as being mixed simply because the Greek meaning of another word that has the same pronunciation, that Greek word means half. So therefore the meaning of that Greek word applies to the name Shem because it has the same pronunciation? No. No. Shem, his name comes from, it has to do with Shalom, Shamayim. It has to do with the bearing of that individual. It has nothing to do with the fact that there is a Greek word that has the same pronunciation, but it has a different meaning mixed, meaning half. No, sorry. I know I'm not explaining that right, but I hope you understand what it is that I'm at least trying to say, because I don't want to get off on a tangent. I want to stay on this topic because, again, I'm just looking at the title. What we're dealing with, we're dealing with witchcraft. We're dealing with the fact that it has affected us. That those of us who we had an ancestor that was a victim of it, and that spirit of failure, that spirit of defeat, that spirit of murder, that spirit of insanity, adultery, fornication, whatever, it stayed on that individual and then the rest of the bloodline. Many of us were the ones who were actually perpetrating. We were sneaking up in the dark, in the midnight hour, okay, while we were in the promised land, sneaking up in a grove somewhere where we had a little altar, making sure nobody was around, okay, and going up in there, putting the required objects on the altar, doing the little cantations, opening the portal, conjuring up the entity from the other side, and putting down the little clipping of someone's hair or someone's nails or whatever. I have no idea, but where it had their DNA on it, and muttering and whispering the cantation, and getting that entity of lust, of fornication, or of sickness, or of insanity, or of whatever, and getting it to match that DNA with the person that was sleeping down by the holler, in the house in the holler, and having them go down there and start to torment and plague that person and stay on their life. We were the ones who were doing that. And unbeknownst, okay, to that ancestor of ours that was doing that, that spirit got on them too. So that individual left that altar with a spirit of lust, torment, insanity, alcoholism, fornication, whatever, and it stayed on that ancestor's lineage. And that's why it's on our bloodline. If I'm making any sense, I hope that makes sense. Because what happens now is that many of us, we have in our life, in our aura, we have familiar spirits that are just living there, that are dwelling there, that are lurking there. And it felt almost for me like the house was a ramshackle house with no door, no windows, gaping holes all up in the walls, no sure foundation. The roof was caved in, all messed up, and any type of beast could come in. Any type of element, be it rain, be it wind, any type of an insect, any type of infestation could come up in there. This is how I'm describing my life, okay, as a result of what ancestors did going back 10, 20, 30, 40, 1500 generations, going all the way back to that first wicked altar that was raised by that first knuckle-headed ancestor, okay, in the promised land, all the way up to those who fled down into Negro land, all those who fled down into Cameroon, all those who fled down into Nigeria, all those who fled into to Chad, all of those who fled down into all those areas and continued doing that. all of those familiar spirits stayed. When so-and-so was snatched up in a net and tossed onto that slave ship, shackled, those entities, those familiar spirits went with her, went with him, went with them, and were there with them in the Seasoning Islands in the Caribbean, went with them to South Carolina, to Mississippi, to Georgia, to Alabama, to Maryland, to Virginia, wherever. Stayed with them, manifested, okay, and continued on up into the Great Migration, up into New York, okay, during the Depression. Came with whoever across into St. Louis, into Detroit. Stayed with them into the 1940s, 1930s and the 40s during the Depression, and then, the Reconstruction era of that. Stayed with them on up into the 60s, into the Black Power movement, into SNCC, into, all of that. Stayed there, then lingering, destroying lives, okay? And now here it is, me. And here I am sitting up here dealing with something else and being able to look back at my childhood and go, okay, some of these protocols here that are supposed to be a phenomenon, a new phenomenon in gang stalking, well, some of this is, I remember this, different comments being made about so-and-so back when I was like 5 years old. Just looking back and realize some of this, no, this has been, some of this was going on before the advent of gang stalking and targeting. That's because some of those elements that are now being incorporated into these programs, that's where they got them from. That's the first part of that, okay? But then the other part is that, how does that expression go? Like holds to like? Well, if I'm saying that that I have now lingering in my life, if I'm looking at my life as a house, and I'm saying that house is ramshackle, it's just an abandoned, just the house is as old as the hills of Georgia. No door, windows all busted out. Just describing my life. Windows all busted out, gaping holes in the walls, holes in the floor. Ain't even forget a foundation. Roof caved in. And because as a result of some of this this nonsense, this insidious nonsense that's been just lingering and staying, riding the bloodline for centuries and centuries and centuries. Okay? And now me, if someone wants to initiate this protocol, this program of this satanic component of gang stalking, and they decide, well, let's mess with her. Let's put a spirit of limitation on her. Well, they do whatever it is that they do, and that spirit comes, and what does it already find waiting in my quote-unquote house? A spirit of limitation. Like holds to like. One spirit of limitation says to the other spirit of limitation, "Hey, what's up? How you doing? Oh yeah, come on in. Yeah, man. Yeah, she right over there. What you want to do? I've been waiting. You okay? Let's do it. Let's do the thing. It's already there. Makes it possible to happen. Am I making sense? Am I being clear? Okay. If you think that somehow just is an exaggeration, or if maybe that's not true, listen to what this sister is saying. She is someone who was delivered of, as she says it in her own words, a legion of demons, and she is now does deliverance. And listen to how she describes this, because I'm telling you that if you look at this, look at the fact that what we know about gang stalking. What do we know that again, this community harassment? We know that it's just like when you go to a doctor. They start asking you about what? Your family history. Okay? Now, think about that. So, you think that these communities that are supposedly wanting to do, they tell the world, if someone were to ever ask them, oh, well, we're just, here to, we want our community to be free of these problems and that problems. We don't want any problems. And since the Patriot Act, blah, 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 blah. Well, the people that they start to mess with, they have to do what? They have to get what? A background on them. You think some of the people who are doing these background checks, who are hacking into people's vital statistics and finding out, what their history is, their education, they get their educational files, they get their military records, they get their work history. You think they don't try to find out who's got a grandparent who was a Mason, who has somebody who was in one of these Phi Beta, these different sororities and fraternities? You think they don't try to find that stuff out? Why? Because they know 1 or 2 or 5 of these people that are designing these programs, they know what this means. That if somebody was a Mason, if somebody was caught up in one of these secret societies, that there are pacts that they had to make an agreement with, that they had to agree with, that there is something on the bloodlines, and they could probably use that to further to make their plan work. Okay? They have to get a background, and they know that for many, many, many people, not just Hebrew Israelites, okay, but I'm just looking at that because that's who I am and that's how I looked at it. But they know that's there in the background for many, many, many of them, and that's why a lot of them they've waxed bold. They've waxed bold in this. They know that it's going to work because they know that many, many, many people are caught up into it, if not them, then an ancestor, then an immediate family member, and that if that's the case, then they're forfeit. Okay, then that familiar spirit, that kindred spirit, is there, and they can use that to their benefit. Maybe if I say it that way, it'll make sense. But check this out.
Oh, let me make a point here. You say, well, I'm saved. I don't have anything in agreement with them. How do you know what your 400 generation grandma believed in? How do you know what great granddaddy believed in? Well, if it was anything on the dark side, you must understand. And if it ain't never been dealt with, you know the word in the Bible? Kindred. Look it up. It talks about Abraham's kin. It talks about the kin of Moses. It even talks about 40 generations of Jesus' kin. That stuff is in the Bible for a reason. It's in the Bible for a reason. When them demons be looking at you and them witches be looking at you, they ain't looking at you to see what's in you. They looking at you to see what is in your soul. What has passed to you through your family line. So you might think, well, Erica, you making this up. Well, next time you go to the doctor, the first thing he gonna ask you is about your family history. They ain't crazy either. Was cancer in your family? Did anybody have heart disease? Well, all sickness, all disease came as a result of the fall. And until somebody gets saved to stop them familiar spirits from tracking in your family line, they can still be there, brothers and sisters. And if that being the case, somewhere back in your family line, they made poultices and packs and all kind of medicine, which was based on witchcraft. It's in your best interest, just like it was in my best interest, to know a little bit more about my soul and the soulish realm, to know a little bit more about my body and what could affect it. How can these spirits, I ask God these questions. How did this happen? Or how does that happen? Or what causes this to happen? And you know what? God will answer your question. You're going to have to search it out and seek it out. But don't think it's strange that you got all these sicknesses, afflictions, diseases. I'm going to end it up with this. Spiritual warfare addresses spirits. Spirits don't die. Witches know how they operate and how to operate them.
Now, I want to give a more modern example of this as we go into this tonight, because this does affect people. Hey, praise is great, worship is great, reading our Bible is great. When we read our Bible, this stuff should jump out at us. Whenever we read our Bible and we go, wow, that's happening to me, reread that, find out where it is, because it may be happening for the exact same reasons to you as it's happening to the people that are in the Bible. Okay? Now, I want to give the example here, a more modern example that's easy to research. You can go and look this up. And it's about a gentleman by the name of Max Jukes. They did a study on Max Jukes because he was quite a character. He was an avowed atheist. And this is a time when most people were God God-fearing, when even the criminals or the pirates or everything else, they even feared God. They even quoted the Bible. But you know what? Max Jukes, he was an avowed atheist. He was a hater of God, hater of church, hater of God's people. He was a drunkard. He was violent. He was in jail often. And what they actually did back then is they decided to, somewhere they got a hold of the family tree. They could do more research on this and more records on this. And actually on Max Jukes, they had no problem finding out about his descendants because a lot of them ended up just like him. You see, they found out they could trace Max Jukes out to 563 descendants. And now let's look at this, this life that he did of hating God, hating people, basically just being evil to his fellow man. Out of those 563 descendants, 310 of them died as paupers, okay? Cause of death, extreme poverty. Now, that's 310. That's like over 60% or so. Okay? Of what they could find, 150 of them were criminals, and of that 150, 78 of those were murderers. Okay, and what they found here too, they go, well, 100 were alcoholics, and I would almost venture to say that number almost has to be higher, especially in those times, but 100 were alcoholics, and by the way, when they're talking about these people, they're talking about like 100 were drunkards. 100 were drunkards, and another heartbreaking statistic that comes out of that is that of the women, more than one half of the women were prostitutes. And this is over 563 descendants. That's quite some time following these people. One reason why they could trace this back to Max Jukes is they were all in the penal system, and that was all written down. But they figured that back then, okay, and I believe this was in the 17 or 1800s, right? Back then, they cost the system $1,200,000, and that was back then. And we would have to figure out how much money that would be today, right? But all this, and it traces back to Max Jukes. And I want to say this here too. I believe that this was also going on before Max Jukes as well. Now, one thing I want to point out here is we're not trying to point the evil finger, but what I want to show here is that look at this, how this all comes down. Number one, I just thought, boy, do the wicked multiply. And it's like here you got Max Jukes, this guy, he spent all this time in jail, but he still ended up with 563 dependents. I look at some of this here, and I look at all this stuff that goes on, I think of good people who really struggle to have children, where we have to pray that God opens up the womb and helps people have children. But boy, it seems like people like this, it seems like they multiply. You know why? Because they usually do not have the enemy standing in the way of that. And you see, the enemy knows how this works, right? The enemy goes, you know what? We're going to create more of our people. We're going to keep this passing down the family line. And look at this. Now we have 563 of these people, of these similar type people here. But what's really sad here too is that, there were babies born into this, and there were small children born into this. And these people really didn't have a chance from the womb, because when there's a curse thing, and when there are spirits, when there are patterns, when there is death, disease, alcoholism, spirits of whoredoms, spirits of prostitution, spirits of destitute poverty that are passing down family lines, and you have children that are born into it. Boy, there's your free will again. No, they don't have a choice. They are set up with this from the womb, and you have this running through the generations, okay? 310 people were born into that to grow up to be a pauper and die of starvation, malnutrition, no place to live. 150 were born to be desperate and criminals, and 78 were murders. So we know, you get that spirit of murder in there, right? 100 were alcoholics. Like I said, I am very sure it's more than 100 were that, right? Okay? And it says more than half the women were prostitutes. So you have those baby girls that are born there, and basically your destiny is you have those spirits, you have the sins of the mothers, sins of the grandmothers, sins of the great-grandmothers going all down that line, right? And you have another little girl, and she's born to be a prostitute. And doesn't that sound horrible? Exactly, people. It is horrible. And it's the work of the enemy. It's what the devil came to do, to steal, to kill, and destroy. And you know what the thing is what I see there too. Now, I know there were a lot of preachers during that day. There were a lot of pastors during that day. I think Jonathan Edwards might even been one of the prominent pastors. But you're going to see this. There were all these great preachers. Why didn't some of that? Maybe some of the other people in this family, maybe some got saved, okay? Maybe some some got saved, maybe some got healing, maybe even fewer got deliverance, right? But the one thing is like, wow, but there were these big revivals, big tent revivals. Why didn't they wander into one of these tents and do everything? We're going to look at that tonight, because there are things that go on in generations that will really, how do you say, almost like block a salvation.
Okay, those were two audio clips. The first one was from Dr. Erica Shepard, and the second one was from a minister, Minister ELVIS out of Germany. But they were both talking about what I was just saying, the truth, the somewhat kind of uncomfortable, unsettling truth of the fact that many of us have familiar spirits that have been riding the bloodline for centuries and centuries and centuries. And I used a Gentile minister, and I used a Hebrew-Israelite deliverance minister, basically because it's in both cultures. It's in both quote unquote races, if you want to use that word. So it's not just, I put a strong emphasis on Hebrew Israelites, because that's my heritage, that's my culture, that's what I'm dealing with. But I also know that it's happening in other bloodlines and cultures as well, where we are, because remember, what I say pretty much almost in every episode, that this targeting, this gang stalking, that it is attacking all races, ethnicities. It doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter your political affiliation, your religious, none of that matters, okay? And we also know that this witchcraft, that this sorcery, this paganism, this idolatry, that it is, it's been for centuries. It's been, it's worldwide, and only now in these last days of this earth age that the servants for the kingdom of darkness, okay, in the spiritual war, they have amassed their weaponry. They have put together their armory and their arsenal, and one of those strong weapons in their arsenal is witchcraft. And I'm saying that one of the reasons that it is effective and it works, and they know this, okay, this is what I tried to say earlier. Don't think that they don't know this when they are designing their programs and they are targeting and getting everything all individualized to attack you, to attack me, to attack the person that you are maybe have now become aware of, that's being messed with down in data processing, okay, that when they are individualizing and getting their little programs coordinated, they're already aware, okay, this one has an uncle that was a Mason, this one has a grandfather that was a Mason, and also her grandmother was in this sorority over here. So meaning they know that, okay, they've made pacts, they've done some things, they probably slept with some people, did some things to get some advancements and to get further ahead. So they've got some spirits that are on that bloodline already. That they know this, and now how they choose to use it, I don't know, but I know, and you know too, okay, that is one of the components of that. Just like there's the color coding, just like there's the street theater, just like there's the noise campaign, the synchronicity, the harassment, the convoys, the breaking and entering into the homes. This is one of those components, okay? It's a powerful one, but it's one of those components also. And so they know that this is what's there. And so when I sit and I look at my life and I go, okay, yeah, this is true. This is definitely something that I'm dealing with, and it is part of being a reluctant and not wanting to be a victim of this or being in this program, but it's part of it. But when I look back at my life, some of this has been going on long before then, and there was no such thing as a gang stalking program, okay, when this was going on. Some of this, I remember different people talking about, Uncle so-and-so, great Uncle so-and-so, great granddaddy so-and-so, and this was going on back then. So that had nothing to do with the gang stalking program. Okay, but these different kindreds, as she called them, these kindred spirits, these familiar spirits, have been riding the bloodline, and now they are here, lingering, waiting to manifest. And when some of these satanic cray-crays, when they, knowing that there is a pact that has been made with an ancestor, Okay. Again, remember, I'm pretty sure I've said that, and if I haven't said that, some of you are probably aware of it. But let me say it now. They are, from what I've just learned in my studies, they are very legalistic. They realize that they have to have a legal right for some of this, for these activities to even work in our lives. And so they are aware. Okay, somebody back in this one's bloodline made a pact, or did something to get an advancement, or they put a curse on someone, and that curse, because we already know that, what is one of the laws, that you reap what you sow. These people who are going into these different to visit these Madame Lucilles and these Madame Patricias and Madame Cleos and the Huju man down here, when they go to and sit across the table from them, they are giving them money to put a curse on somebody, but they also leave with that same curse on them, and they probably don't even know it. Okay, but it's on their bloodline, and so they've got a spirit of poverty. They've got a spirit of addiction. They've got a spirit of fornication. They've got a spirit of limitation, of backwardness, of cancer, of this, of that, and the other, and that's why it's there. And like I said, just feeling like, already feeling like my house, using that metaphor. Okay, I know it sounds kind of like poetic and dramatic, but it works. Maybe it gets the point across. Okay, if you can't appreciate the example of comparing, someone's life to a house, well, then maybe compare it to a bumpy road. Okay, that's got all kinds of potholes in it, and just all kinds of twists and turnbacks, and it's convoluted, and it's just in a complete state of disrepair, and all of those potholes, all of those pits, all of those huge, with the brambles over it, all of everything that's making it hard to even drive on this road and almost nearly inaccessible, is the result of manifestations of these familiar spirits. And when these gang-stalking targeteers, okay, when these individuals that they have hired to mess with us, some of the reason why it works is because like holds to like. They send a spirit of limitation on us. There's already a spirit of limitation in our lives working, or at least they're waiting to manifest. And I'm serious. Sometimes I wonder, what? Did they just like meet, hook up, and go, hey, what's up? Long time no see. Oh, you here too? Oh, yeah, I've been hanging out with this one for a while. I know her mom. I know her great-grandmom. I know her great-granddaddy. Shoot, what you want to know? What you want to do? Let's do this. Let's get it cracking. Come on. I'm serious. I wonder sometimes if that's not what they do. But I also know that the Most High did not create us so that we would perish and die. As this last minister pointed out, it is the enemy who comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. But because the Most High is also legalistic, and he has to honor these laws, these statutes and commandments, and which is how some of these different agents of darkness, how they work that, okay, because they know what the Most High told us, that we are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. We don't know that. We don't know what's going on in our lives. We can't understand why things are not working. And just like what I already shared, how when I got back here and I made it to San Francisco and I was sharing with someone in a shelter, well, this is what's happening, and it's just been horrible, and blah, blah, blah. And then I was on the bus, and blah, 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 and this lady and the baby, and blah, 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 blah. And what was the first thing out of her mouth? Well, I know where you need to go. Okay, and where did I go? Up into one of them, Madame Patricia. Okay, sitting across from the table, and did the situation get better? No, it got worse. Okay, and chances are, and I know I came away with a negative vibration on me, and I ended up having to go to the frickin' Pacific Ocean. Okay, and this was again before I sat myself down and really started to really think about my life, and realized that there was a time when I did have peace in my life, when I did have protection, when I did have comfort. Okay, but this was before then, okay? But I just wanted to back this up, because I shared some audio clips, but I just wanted to share something, because again, using the scriptures, because we always, I will always use the scriptures, to back up and confirm what it is that I'm trying to share with you, because that's what helped me. But again, let's look at King David. Let's look at something. I pointed this out, but I'm going to point it out again, because maybe now it might make a little more sense. He knew that because of what he had done to Uriah and Bathsheba, basically ruined their marriage, stole his wife, had him killed, got her pregnant. I mean, that whole just vicious, nasty thing that he did, and ended up with, and one of the worst parts of it was murder. we know that he suffered a punishment. The Most High decreed that war would never leave his household, that there would be a sword over his house, that he would raise up enemies from within his own household. And we looked at what happened with the uprising of Absalom, and then on and on, and just Joab, just some of the different, sneaky, just untrustworthy people that were in his life and the problems that they created for him. But when he knew this. He knew that these people, especially his sons, he knew that what was going on for them was what the Apostle Shaul said, don't look at what is seen, but look at what is not seen. That there was a spirit of rebellion. There was a spirit of anarchy. There was a spirit of war that was purposely put in his house. And those individuals were being influenced by those entities. David knew this, okay? And he does something that is very noble, that is very responsible, and because he had knowledge that say like my mother, my father, they didn't have, and maybe yours didn't have either, because if they did, maybe they would have told you this, maybe they would have told me this, maybe someone would have said, well, you had a great grandparent or a great grandmother, and this is what she was involved in, and so if things start to get hinky in your life, this is what's going on. I never had nobody sit me down and tell me that, did you? Okay, maybe you did, I don't know, but listen to this. This is in 2 Kings, I'm just going to read this. 1 Kings chapter 2, starting at, we're going to just start at verse 1. Now the days of David drew nigh that he should die, and he charged Solomon his son. Hold on a second. And he charged Solomon his son, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and shew thyself a man, and keep the charge of Yahuwah thy Elohim to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself, that Yahuwah may continue his word which he spake concerning me, saying, If thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Yasharun. Moreover, thou knowest also what Joab the son of Zeruiah did to me, and what he did to the two captains of the host of Yasharun, unto Abner the son of Ner, and unto Amasa the son of Jether, whom he slew, and shed the blood of war in peace, and put the blood of war upon his girdle that was about his loins, and in his shoes that were on his feet. Do therefore according to thy wisdom, and let not his hoar head go down to the grave in peace. Okay, and so what we're going to look at is what Solomon did. I just want to share this with you and why he did it, because he understood probably a little better. I think he got it a little better than David did, or maybe David did too, but he just didn't say it. But turning over the same chapter, just starting at verse 31. And the king said unto him, Do as he hath said, and fall upon him, and bury him, that thou mayest take away the innocent blood, which Joab shed from me and from the house of my father. And Yahuwah shall return his blood upon his own head, who fell upon 2 men more righteous and better than he, and slew them with the sword. My father David, not knowing thereof, to wit, Abner the son of Ner, captain of the host of Yasharun, and Amasa the son of Jether, captain of the host of Judah. Their blood shall therefore return upon the head of Joab, and upon the head of his seed forever. But upon David, and upon his seed, and upon his house, and upon his throne shall there be peace forever from Yahuwah. So Benaiah the son of Jehoiada went up and fell upon him and slew him, and he was buried in his own house in the wilderness. Okay, so if you understand the wording and what he's saying, that is that spirit of murder, that spirit of jealousy, that spirit of deceit, that spirit of corruption, that spirit of wickedness, abuse, cruelty, call it what you want, okay, that was lingering around David, around his throne, around his lineage. And he already knew what could happen because of what he had already done, and he did not want that to carry on. And so he told Solomon to do it, and Solomon, of course, repeated it and made it even more clear. Let all this go to the grave with Joab, that it will not linger around, that we will not have somebody else's bloodshed and murder and vile nature coming up and wreaking havoc during my reign. And so he did that. Let's look at another one. This is in the book of Lamentations, which is right after Jeremiah. It's a very small book. Sometimes it's hard to see. easy to miss it. But just one verse. This is chapter 5, the very last verse. Remember, O Yahuwah, what has come upon us. Consider and behold our reproach. Our inheritance is turned to strangers, our houses to aliens. We are orphans and fatherless, and our mothers are as widows. We have drunken our water for money. Our wood is sold unto us. Our necks are under persecution. We labor and have no rest. We have given the land. We have given the hand to the Egyptians and to the Assyrians to be satisfied with bread. Our fathers have sinned and are not, and we have borne their iniquities. Okay, I just wanted to share that right there. That is, again, looking at this from an intergenerational perspective. And so that is why I titled this, What's Up with the Witchcraft? That's what's up with the witchcraft. Some of the reasons why this satanic element is able to work, that satanic component in that gang-stalking is able to work, is because we already have a door open to that. Okay, just like I was saying during those episodes that I did about shutting down those doors and making it so that they are not able to do any of their nonsense to us during those high holy days, their high holidays. Okay, the Halloweens, the Christmas, the Thanksgiving, and all of that. We don't go to their parties. We don't have their little objects, their Christmas trees, their wreaths, their mistletoes. We don't have anything. We make sure that they have no reason to come into our house to mess with us. Okay, they will not have a legal right to do it. They may try to do it, but if we're being righteous and keeping the laws and statutes and commandments, and we have cultivated a relationship with the Most High, and we know how to use the weapon of prayer, we know how to use the weapon of praise, we know how to use the weapon of fasting. Well, then when they do try to come at us, we can help ourselves. We can protect ourselves. We can call upon the Most High, okay, to help us. Well, that doesn't just apply during the holiday season. That applies right now. We have to, which is what I did, which is what I'm sharing with you. Again, I'm not going to tell you to do something that I haven't done. Okay, I'm literally doing a fast, a 2-day fast, a 3-day fast, a 5-day fast, however many days it takes to pray, to repent, to ask the Most High to shut down and destroy all those altars in the spirit world. Okay, that have been those wicked altars that were erected by ancestors who, either out of wickedness, either out of ignorance, because after a while we know that type of idolatry cropped up in Judea, in Palestine, amongst the Hebrew Israelites, and those 3rd, 4th, 15th, 16th generation of people, they didn't even know that it was not supposed to be happening. We learned when we read into the New Testament that during the time of Yahushua, many of them didn't even know the name of the Most High, because the high priest in them had forbidden them to even have the name of the Most High. So some of the stuff that they were doing, that became a way of life for them. They thought that that's what they were supposed to be doing. They brought some of those teachings with them back from Babylon as well when they came back from Babylon. Okay, so literally it became perpetual. It basically just became a cycle that was just kept being repeated on and on and on. Because if you look at what I shared with you when reading in Exodus, he said it would be to the 3rd and the 4th generation. So some of that, it should have ended right there. But if you have someone like with what happened with me, where someone in the 4th generation is saying, gosh, my life is just so horrible, I don't understand, and they're talking to a friend, and that friend says, well, I know where you need to go. There's a guy who knows how to do some stuff, and he lives back down in the swamps, kind of looking scary, got a really bad situation, but he can help you out. And so he goes there and sets it up again, and the cycle just repeats. So now what happens now it's on into his 3rd and 4th generation, and then again in that 4th generation, if his great granddaughter says, gosh, I can't seem to just get this bad luck off me, I just can only seem to go so far and it just doesn't work, and they're talking to a co-worker, and the co-worker says, well, I really know what you need to do. I got just the thing. I got some books here and I've been reading them and they've been working for me. There it is again. You see what I'm saying? And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Centuries and centuries and centuries that these are lingering. Trust me on this. Literally having to do this because I want to do everything that I can in my power to not make this easy for them. I have no control over these government programs and how these people are being funded and who they decide to target and who they decide to stalk. I have no control over that. But what I can have control of is this portion of it. And I will do everything I can, in using that metaphor of the house, to repair the house, to build up a strong foundation with the help of the Most High, with His blessings, with His guidance, with the light of the Messiah shining through my mind to inspire me, to get me to understand what it is that I need to do, using the Holy Spirit, doing that, to build up the foundation, to literally repair the wall, close the gaps, put in windows, put in a door that is sturdy, windows that are sturdy, build up the roof, repair the house, repair my life, get all of those negative entities out of my life. And if that means abstaining for food for X number of days, then I'm going to do it. Do it in righteousness, starting with a prayer and literally telling the Most High, Father, I am offering these X number of days of food, abstaining from food as a sacrifice to you. Please, Father, I ask you to please destroy all those altars. I renounce every wicked deed that my ancestors have done. Please, all of those altars of poverty, all of those altars of excess, all of those altars of alcoholism, of fornication, of lust, of this, that, and the other, please destroy them. Grab those spirits, tie them up, kick them out of my house, throw them at the feet of thy Son, that they stay there. Please, literally, Father, please destroy those altars. I did it. I watched a minister, I can't think of his name right now, several videos where he talked about this, and what he was saying, it rang true. I started to do it, and there has been a change in my life, literally feeling like there's been a liberation. And so that's why I'm telling you, because how is it that these people, these random people, are able to come up and mess with us? One of the reasons they're able to do that is because, especially when we know that we're not caught up in no witchcraft, we ain't going to nobody's cult meetings, we're not at the weekly satanic mass, okay? We don't have any of this nonsense in our house. We don't have any of those books. We're not doing nothing to nobody. We ain't sitting up at night in front of a candle with a pen poking needles in it. We're not doing anything. Those doors are shut. We're not a part of that. Okay, we are doing if anything, we're doing the exact opposite. We're praying, we're keeping the commandments, we're doing good deeds, we're reading our scriptures. We're fasting on a regular basis, if not weekly, then monthly. We're doing the good deeds. So how is it that this is still happening? Well, this might be another reason, because of something that great-great-grandmother did, something that, an uncle over there did. And these are lingering. They're right there waiting. And when someone sends a spirit of rejection, when someone sends a spirit of poverty, when someone sends a spirit of illness, we have a spirit of rejection, we have a spirit of poverty, we have a spirit lingering right there, just waiting to manifest, just waiting, but it can't, because we're sitting up here doing something right, hopefully, but these individuals, these cray-crays that are designing these programs to stalk us, to attack us, they know, okay, this one had a grandmother that was caught up in the sorority. This one had an uncle that was in the Prince Albert Hall, was a Mason, was one of those, what does Brother Jacob call him? A goat rider? Oh, well, we got this. And lo and behold, it works. Okay, so we need to really clear that up. So that's what's up with the witchcraft. That's why this is titled that. And again, I'm just sharing this with you because this is something that I learned and it is helping me. And that's what I want to do, is to just let this ministry be a place of good news, of inspiration, of information. And I hope that it helps you. I know it was kind of depressing to even hear some of that. To think, gosh, great, okay, I get to deal with, something that somebody did 50 years ago, 500 years ago, that didn't have nothing to do with me. Yeah, that's the truth, the truth, just to paraphrase a reggae singer, the truth is an offense, but it's not a sin. Okay, but on any rate, this is this fiery trial. And this is some of the impurities that comes up. Remember, we're in a fire that's meant to burn. The metaphor is that it is meant to burn so hot, so intense, that it can melt liquid, that it can melt metal, turn it into liquid. And the end result of that is that the impurities rise up to the top, and the metalsmith, the goldsmith, the silversmith, they can see it and they can scrape it off. Okay, and that's how you end up with pure silver. That's how you end up with refined gold. Okay, it has to come up. And the deeds, the wickedness, the evil pacts, the evil covenants, the evil altars of our ancestors, that's impurities. And it needs to come up so that we can be as free as possible, so that we can walk this road in righteousness with the least amount of baggage possible. That's what we want. That is what the Messiah, that's why he did what he did. And that is why I think, as from the way I look at it, why the Most High put us on this path, because he chose you and he chose me, and he said, yes, this one I want to be a servant. In the last days, I want him to be able to go out and share this good news but I'm going to put him through this bloodline because that bloodline needs to be cleansed, and I think he's going to be the person. And lo and behold, you came through that bloodline. You said, okay, there's Sephora over there, always reading them comic books. Okay, always, poet this. Okay, Rilk. Oh yeah, she got that poet thing. Oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna put her in this. Yeah, this is what I want her to do. Okay, yeah. Gonna be hard for them, but they can do it. And lo and behold, we're doing it. Okay, and that right there is, in a roundabout way, can you see the compliment? Okay, and now we have that opportunity to literally to cleanse up and clear up our bloodline and be a more responsible, a more righteous, clean servant that the Most High can use. And the experiences that we can get because of this are experiences that we can draw upon to help someone else who's just waking up to this, who's just awoken to this, and they're looking for help. And you get to be that bright light in this landscape that is spiritually darkened, and they can follow your example and be led to the Most High and have an opportunity to repent, to gain forgiveness for their sins, to be cleansed of that, and have an opportunity to gain salvation. And I don't see anything wrong with that, because I'm just going to share one last scripture with you, or maybe one or two more scriptures with you, and then I'll let you go. But remember that. Just think about that for just a second. Again, I pull up flashcards here. Okay. This is in the New Testament. One of them is in the, see if I can find it here. But why we would want to do that, why we would want to take that so serious, why it would mean so much to us to want to be used by the Most High, to help Him, to bring souls to salvation. One of the reasons why, see if I can find this here, is when we look at what is if we look at in the book of James, chapter 5, verse 20, let him know that he which converteth the sinner from the error of his ways shall save a soul from death and shall hide a multitude of sins. There it is, because we're trying to get into the kingdom also, right? Okay, we have sins. Even though, I've been talking this entire podcast, this episode, about the sins of our ancestors, we know that we have sins too. And so when we get all of that cleared up, we will be able to be more effective, more responsible servants for the Most High. And when we share these experiences, those individuals who are listening to us, they will take us more serious. And maybe one or two of them might literally apply what it is that they're learning from us, and it might make a difference in their life. They might sense that, they might feel the difference and follow through in it, and lo and behold, another child has been turned back to the light and is now walking this road and will gain salvation. Who would have a problem with that? I don't, and I don't think that you do either. Okay, and with that I say shalom.
Then you can't lead the way, for it wouldn't be right for the blind to lead the wise. So hold on tight, my brother, and never ever you give in, for it won't be long till the wise lead the blind. Hold on tight, my brother, and never ever you give in, for it won't be long, no it won't be long, till the wise lead the blind. Calling on all the wise sons, you know it's get together time. I say, hey my brothers all, wherever you may be, come start living right. Give I strength, oh Jah, I have need to be free from this here captivity. Release the chains that bind man here in earth. Say set man free, free. So hold on tight, my brothers, and never ever you give in, for it won't be long till the wise lead the blind. Calling on all the wise sons, you know it's get together time. I say, hey my brothers all, wherever you may be, come start living right. Divine strength, oh Jah, I have need to be free from this here misery. Release my love here amongst men, oh Jah Jah please. This earth is thirsty, oh Jah Jah, and it has need, has a need. Bind the hay